disappeared. Your messages went unanswered. Your calls met silence. Your world stood still. Then one day, she was back. Welcome to your night's closure. Your sanctuary of calm. No images, no noise. Just my voice, guided by intentionally crafted phrases and insights, gently sharing affirmations and stories for your quiet mind. So, lie back, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and allow peace to unfold naturally as you rest. If this space speaks to you, like and subscribe now. Or, if you're already deep in focus, let it wait. Come back when the moment feels right. In the vast emptiness that followed her ghosting, you discovered the weight of abandonment. Every morning felt like searching for a ghost. Every evening, a rehearsal of last words you never spoke. You combed through memory, her laughter, the kindness in her tone, the promise of future plans, and yet all those bright moments had faded into the hollow ache of unanswered expectations. Ghosting teaches you to brace yourself, to expect silence as the default, to question your own worth when someone you trusted vanishes without trace or explanation. And now, she stands at your door, as if the days of silence were a mere pause, as if your wounded heart could reset at her sudden return. Relief flutters through you like a wounded bird, alighting briefly before darting away again under the shadow of uncertainty. You remember the terror of her disappearance more vividly than the comfort of her presence. The space she left behind became a measure of your loneliness, a gauge of how deeply you invested in being seen, heard, valued, only to be erased without warning. Yet here you are, breathing in her apology before it fully forms, feeling the old pattern stir within, the compulsion to forgive quickly, to rush toward ease, to fill the silence with reassurance. You remember that reclaiming your trust is not about proving yourself deserving of her attention, but about affirming that your own calm and self-worth come first. You may find your mind replaying her last words, looking for hidden motives or confession of regret. You may feel the tension coil in your chest, a reflex born from past wounds and unhealed corners of abandonment. But tonight, you can simply notice these impulses without acting on them, allowing each thought to drift by like clouds over a still lake. In this moment, recognize the resilience that kept you standing through days of unanswered calls and nights of restless sleep. Your emotional resilience was forged in the quiet crucible of her absence. You adapted, you protected, you learned to find safety in your own presence rather than in her shifting availability. And now, when her face appears again in your life, you hold the power of choice, to welcome her back with open arms, to protect your boundaries with firm kindness, or to step away with the calm assurance that your worth does not depend on someone else's return. Pause and feel your breath anchoring you here. Inhale strength. Exhale doubt. You are more than a chapter in her pattern. You are your own story of survival and growth. Allow these truths to settle in your mind. I honor my resilience through silence. I welcome respect more than fleeting presence. I choose steady care for my heart above all else. Rest here a while, held by your own steady rhythm. Tonight, your peace is priority. Your calm is your guide. And your worth remains unshaken, whether she stays or goes once more. She returned on a rainy afternoon. Water dripped from her hair. Silence filled the room. You held your breath. Everything felt possible and impossible. In the days after her ghosting, you learned a new kind of waiting. Every notification rattled your nerves. You replayed her last words in your mind, searching for the fault line. The emptiness she left wasn't just physical. It echoed in your chest, a hollow drum demanding answers. You remember scrolling through old photos, your smiles side by side, laughter frozen in pixels, and feeling a stab of disbelief that someone so present could vanish without a trace. She crossed the threshold and apologized. Her voice trembled with stories of overwhelm and fear of dragging you into her chaos. She spoke of family crises, of nights spent wrestling with shadows she couldn't name. In her silence, she'd hoped to protect you. Instead, she left you adrift. Pause. Breathe. Allow that tension to soften. There was a man named Marcus who faced the same return. He saw in her eyes not the confident glow he remembered, but a fragile light, a call for understanding rather than comfort. He offered space, not answers. He listened without rushing to fix. In that listening, he reclaimed his calm and gave her the safety she needed. You might see your own reflection here. Moments when you withdrew to survive, believing absence was safer than honesty. Moments when your silence spoke louder than any confession could. Now, in her return, you have a choice. React from old fears or respond with new clarity. You can rush to rebuild, patching old wounds in haste, or you can stay present, letting each breath guide your next word. Feel your feet grounded. Feel your chest rise and fall. Know that your calm is your compass. Affirm it now. I honor both her truth and my boundaries. I choose understanding over regret. I stay steady through her comings and goings. Let these words rest in your mind. Your worth is not tied to her availability. You stand strong, ready to meet her return with presence, not performance. In your earliest memories, you might recall a moment when tears were met with impatience or irritation, a parent brushing you off with a sigh, a caregiver who told you to toughen up, a friend who laughed when you showed vulnerability. You learned swiftly that emotions were negotiable, acceptable when convenient, inconvenient when inconvenient. Those early lessons planted the seed that to protect yourself, you must keep the volume down, the needs small, the cracks hidden. Feel how that seed took root. You became an expert at containment. When sadness rose, you swallowed it. When anger flared, you cooled it. When fear gripped you, you breathed through it alone. There was a young man named Raphael whose father praised only his victories, never his struggles. When Raphael lost a game or fell short in school, the house would grow quiet, the glance he received colder than any words. Over time, Raphael stopped sharing his disappointments. He perfected his smile and cheered for others, masking the ache beneath. Years later, he realized that his cheerful facade was a legacy of those silent corridors of shame. Think of your own hallways, the spaces where emotion felt too risky, the rooms where you learned that to stay safe, you must stay small. Yet those protective walls also sheltered a longing to feel fully, to laugh with abandon, to cry without shame, to express anger without guilt. Each time you stifled an emotion, you traded authenticity for safety. Each time you swallowed your truth, you paid a quiet toll, a little more distance from yourself. Pause and breathe. Notice any tightness in your chest or belly. Acknowledge the cost of containment. Tracing these roots isn't about blame. It's about compassion. You were a child learning to navigate walls built by others. You were a teenager adapting to expectations shaped by fear and silence. You became an adult who mastered self-control, but at the expense of true presence. Now, you stand at the trunk of this tree, ready to see where each branch begins. You understand that shutting down was an act of survival. You understand that each wall you built was a refuge. and you understand that those walls, once essential, can now be examined, honored, and gently loosened. Allow a moment of gratitude for the resilience that kept you safe, and for the courage that brings you here tonight. Reflect. I honor the roots that protected me. I acknowledge the cost of my containment. I am ready to trace my path back to presence. Breathe deeply and let this awareness guide you toward a softer, more whole expression of who you are.